My ex-boyfriend found out the truth behind my cheating and he's extremely upset now. When I 34, female, was 14, I finally got my life back on track after a rough childhood. I lost my dad, was bullied in school and blah blah blah, and simply had some rough years. But I changed schools. I met my group friends and someone who a couple of months later became my first boyfriend. Thomas, 34, male. Now I was real happy. I felt like I'd found my place finally. I was doing well in school, had a job, and at least 2 weekends a month, my group of friends and I would leave the town to go to a city on the coast or the capital city, just 2 or 3 hours away in a car. I'm from Argentina and we would go to see our favorite national rock bands. We loved it. We were big fans. It was the coolest thing to do back then in my country, doing pogo, pushing people to get to the front fence, screaming the lyrics, etc. It doesn't seem important, but it is. Basically, when I was 16, my friend group and I headed to the capital to go see one of our favorite bands, Callejeros, at a place called Cromañón. I'm not gonna explain what happened, just gonna say that the biggest tragedy of rock happened that night. Lots of victims and lots of people that ended up hurt. I ended up hurt. I still have a big scar on my thigh. 2 of my closest friends passed away that night. It was a big mess. I can never explain what I felt. I remember I started to go out every weekend. I would get super drunk. I avoided talking about it at all. I would leave the room when someone even spoke about it. I kept pretending that everything was fine, that I was fine. In case you're wondering, getting alcohol in Latino America, being a minor is not hard, much less in a small town. Plus, I'm from a town where for some reason we also go out on Thursdays. And in Latino America, we usually leave clubs and parties around 6 a.m. on Fridays. I would show up drunk at school, but that was common, so no one realized Thomas was there, supporting me through everything, working hard to get a smile out of me every day, trying to get me to open up, but not pushing me too much either, hugging me when I needed to and, well, our relationship grew stronger despite me going into a darker hole. When we graduated, we moved to the same city to keep studying and I decided that it was time for me to cut the bull crap. I got a part-time job and worked hard to get the best grades, got new friends, and stopped partying so much that I thought I was fine, or at least I wanted to convince myself that I was. But with time I realized that I wasn't. We were like 20 and I remember I started to drink again. I hated myself. I felt miserable. I had nightmares of that night. And I felt even worse because I thought I was being ungrateful. I survived, at least in my mind. Feeling like this was pathetic. Mental health. Well, we didn't speak much about it then. It was a taboo to go to therapy during this time. I started to treat Thomas badly. I was mistreating him. No, I never hit him or anything like that, but I would often yell at him or call him names when he was just trying to help. I kept pushing him away. I realized he deserved better than me. Thomas was always an angel. Of course, he did not make sense to me why he was still supporting me when he found me passed out after so much drinking on the floor. He would take me to the bathroom, bathe me, dress me and put me on the bed, cook for me, and clean my apartment. It only made me feel worse. I had a great man and I was treating him like crap. He simply deserved better than me. I tried to tell him that we needed to break up, but he refused. Thomas refused and told me he would stick next to me no matter what. But I only got worse and I felt like I was going to drag him with me. And I couldn't stand the idea of seeing him with me. So after thinking I made a choice, I did the only thing I knew he wouldn't forgive. Well, I told him I did it. I told him I cheated on him with a guy from my work, a friend he was jealous of. He was upset, confused, angry, sad, and felt betrayed. Of course, it was heartbreaking to see him like that, but I knew it was necessary. He was much better without me. I was just a dead weight back then. Anyway, he left. I simply did not see him again afterward. I didn't call him either, didn't search for him, even though I wanted to. After I graduated, I got a full-time job and I got tired of feeling miserable. My mom got me in contact with survivors. I'm going to clarify. Many survivors had unalived themselves or tried to. Most of us ended up with serious mental health issues, as you can see. And they ended up convincing me to start therapy. I stopped drinking for good and well. It was all really hard. Finally stop avoiding reality and facing my problems, accepting that I needed help. All the process of opening up was hard but worth it. There were countless nights where I just stared at the phone wondering if I should call Thomas or not. I wanted to call him, tell him I had lied, apologize for everything, and thank him for everything he did for me. I have to say Thomas did call to check up a few times, but I always decided not to pick up. I heard a lot of voicemails from him while he was drunk asking how I could do that to him. But he would still say that he loved me and he asked me how I was. I forced myself to never answer. With time, his call stopped. I got better and started to go back to my old self. Slowly, I started dating again, started to have more fun, and eventually got married and had a daughter. Life did get better for me, but all that goes up must come down and my husband ended up cheating on me. Karma's is a beach I know. I divorced him and I was able to buy my own house and got primary custody of our daughter. My daughter has been the light of my eyes and even with everything that happened lately for her, I would never let myself fall into that depression again. I was and still am, happier than ever. Anyway, I got in contact again with Thomas like 5 months ago. He found me on Instagram and just sent me a direct message and we started to chat to catch up about life. He also had a kid, a 5-year-old son, but he's not with his mother. It was a product of a one-night thing and they have a good co-parenting relationship. He has him 2 weeks a month. The thing is, we started to meet up again, just as friends at first, but then we started to hook up. We would go on dates, but we never talked about the cheating. But finally, I confessed that my feelings for him were back. Thomas told me he was feeling the same, but he wasn't sure about starting anything again with someone who had cheated. That's when I chose to finally open up about what happened in the past, about how I was feeling, and how I didn't want to drag him with me. So that's why I chose to lie about cheating on him. Thomas was shocked. He got upset. And I remember how he left. He called me later and told me I shouldn't have lied to him about something like cheating, that I should have just told him that I didn't want to be with him anymore. I explained again my side and told him I'd rather him to think really bad of me, to be really sad for a while, but eventually move on, than to drag him with me to my dark hole. He just told me that he was an adult who could make his own choices and that he just wanted to be there for me. I told him I didn't regret what I did but I apologized for hurting him and hung up and we haven't talked ever since. He called me yesterday, but I didn't pick up. I wasn't ready to talk with him yet. I have been processing all this information despite not being in the best way all these years. I believed I was doing him a favor, that even though it hurt him, it was the best for him. Also, I was not even close to being good enough to be in a relationship. I honestly don't know. I do know it wasn't the best way, but I had no strength to reject him. I knew he would have been able to convince me that he wanted to stay with me despite everything. Update: I'm going to start by clarifying that for everything I wrote about the Cromanen tragedy, I only wrote it for context. It was over 19 years ago. I only wrote it to explain the place where I was, how my mind worked, and how I was feeling. I would never ever come to ask for advice about something like that on the internet. Come on, be serious for the love of God. I'm saying this for all the people who acted like psychiatrists and psychologists and even tried to make a diagnosis out of a post. Seriously, even if it was with good intentions, it's dangerous and really irresponsible to do so. I don't have PTSD. I searched for professional help after graduating from university. I graduated 13 years ago. I saw psychiatrists and psychologists and I never got diagnosed with PTSD. I had depression and anxiety. I could never explain the amount of pain I felt after the tragedy and how it only got worse because I didn't search for help right away. It took a lot of work, but years of therapy and support from friends and family finally made me get back to my old self. Not fooling like I wanted to, but to a point, I didn't even recognize myself. I'm saying that for the ones who told me I was toxic, and I guess I was on a point, but the others were never the problem. I was so self-destructive back then that I thought the best would be to push everyone away again. But as I said, that was so long ago and I'm not even close to being like that. I repeat, I wouldn't be so irresponsible to get into another relationship, get married, and have a child. When Thomas and I first started to date again, it was like the first years of our relationship. Healthy, fun, and full of love. Not like the last year of our relationship. That was definitely the worst year of my life. I've talked about it in therapy for years and years, and I put it behind me years ago. Now it's just something that marked me, but that is my past. It left me with lots and lots of problems, but, well, it is what it is. I survived and should be thankful for it now. To the point. Thomas and I met up on Saturday and things went well. We had a long talk. Like we talked for hours about everything. He opened up about how hurt he felt, how awful the months after our breakup were, and how he felt like I was making the choice for him. I told him that I was not only doing it for him but also for me. I couldn't be in a relationship back then. How could I? Traumatized for whatever reason I was back then, I was so self-destructive and not nice to be around. I also told him how he might have wanted to stay, but I didn't want him to. I reminded him that I tried to break up with him many times and he simply wouldn't listen to my reasons and apologized for it. But he also explained how he loved me more than anything and couldn't leave in that situation. And how even after he thought I had cheated, he was scared about me trying to unalive myself. Every time there was news about one of the survivors of Cromanen that had unalived themselves, he would freak out thinking it was me. I told him I loved him so much back then and now. But at least for me, it was not healthy to maintain a relationship. It was toxic and it wouldn't have helped any of us at all. We apologized to each other and I clarified that I want to leave all of this behind and to just be us, to finally put this in the past. He agreed. We cried, but it was tears of happiness. I hadn't been so happy in a while. I guess deep down it was what I always wanted. Ever since we broke up. To be okay again and to be like we used to. I guess that I never stopped loving him and he never stopped loving me. I always wondered where he was or if he was okay. Wonder what would have happened if things had been different. But now I don't have to wonder anymore because we're together now and that's all that matters. But one step at a time.